All right, so let's begin with the session. Today we are going to be discussing OET Listening Part A, right? So let me just share my screen over here. All right. Now, let's have a very good session over here. So let me just take a moment to introduce myself. So myself, Dr. Shrikanth, and today, as the head coach of Integrated Linguistics Institute, as well as the developer of the OET Exam Mastery app, I'm going to give you like very, very important tips in regards to OET Listening Part A. Right. So first and foremost, let's take a look into a question paper of the OET listening part A. Now, as you can see, this is the part A of the OET listening test, right? So those who are completely new to OET, please understand that when it comes to the OET listening test, there are three parts. That is, we have OET listening part A. Okay, let us write it over here. We have listening part A, we have listening part B, and we have listening part C, right? So when it comes to listening part A, we have 24 questions. When it comes to listening part B, we have 6 questions. And when it comes to listening part C, we have 12 questions. Right. Now, part C is everything multiple choice questions. Part B is also multiple choice questions. But whereas listening part A, it is not multiple choice questions. It is basically fill in the blanks. Okay, you will have 24 fill in the blank questions. So therefore, listening part A is kind of unique compared to listening part B as well as listening part C. So therefore, the strategies to listening part A is completely different. Right. Now, before I go further, I just want to say that the most interesting exam, right? The most interesting exam of the OET is basically the OET listening test. Okay, because you get to hear a lot of accents, right? You get to hear the British accent, you get to hear the American accent, you get to hear the Australian accent, right? So therefore, there is no boredom. Okay, it is very, very engaging. It is very much proactive. So therefore, you actually find the listening test the most, interesting. But at the same time, it is also one of the most challenging exam. Okay, it is the most challenging exam because it requires a lot of focus. Okay, so when it comes to your the OET listening, a lot of focusing skills are important. A lot of concentration skills are important. All right, a lot of synonym recognition skills are important. All right, and you really have to understand what the question is asking you. Right, you have to understand precisely what the question is, and there is something called as the prediction strategies. Right. So all these things are very much interconnected with each other, which makes the listening test the most interesting exam, but at the same time, the most challenging exam. Right. So in today's session, we will do a small practice related to listening part A. And if you stick with me, I guarantee you that it is going to be very much helpful to you. Right. Now, let's take a look into this particular question paper. Right. Now, when it comes to OET listening part A, as you can see over here, we have two extracts. So this is extract 1, and under extract 1, there will be 12 questions. Right. And you need to understand that each extract, okay, so each extract, that is, it consists of 12 questions, and these 12 questions is based on a 5-minute audio, right? So on your examination day, you will be entering into the examination hall. They'll give you headsets or there will be speakers around, and you will be listening to a 5-minute audio. And simultaneously, so this is what you need to understand. Simultaneously, as you're listening to the audio, you need to find answers to the questions. Right. So you cannot pause the audio. You cannot rewind the audio. It is not allowed. The audio will go in one single stretch. Simultaneously, you have to listen to the audio. So what are the things you have to do? Okay, you have to listen at the same time. You have to read the questions at the same time. And you also have to answer the questions at the same time. Right. So as you can see, All these things you are doing simultaneously for all the 24 questions. So therefore, it requires a particular mindset. It requires a particular technique, a method, and that method, if you're able to have that exam technique, if you're able to, implement, then it becomes much more manageable. Right. Now, as I had mentioned to you earlier, you can see here that we are listening to a 5-minute length audio. So I will play the audio and I'll also give you questions. I'll show you the questions and we'll do a live practice. No worries. Now let's first and foremost talk about the audio over here. So when it comes to listening part A, right? So when it comes to listening part A, you will be listening to a 5-minute length audio. And this audio is always a patient consultation. Right. So what are you listening to? You're always going to be listening to a patient consultation. That means you are going to be listening to a conversation. Okay. So in listening part A, it is always going to be a conversation between a patient and a healthcare professional. So there will be two speakers over here. There will be two speakers in listening part A. A patient will be there and a healthcare professional will also be over here. Right. Now, you need to understand that in most cases, the main speaker, okay, so who is the main speaker from whom we get the answers, right? So the person from whom we get the answers is the main speaker. So in most of the time, the main speaker is always going to be the patient. Most of the times, right? Main speaker is going to be the patient over here, whereas the second speaker is going to be the medical staff. Right. So this is what you need to understand about OET listening part A. Right. Now that you have a small idea of what to expect, okay, in listening part A, so we have 24 fill in the blank questions. We have 2 extracts. Okay. There are 12 questions per extract over here. Right. And what else do you see? Okay. You'll be listening to a 5-minute length audio and your duty over here is to find the missing information. Right. Now, similarly, you have extract number 2. Now, extract number 2 also has questions from 13 to 24, and this is going to be another patient consultation. Now, see over here in extract number 2, the patient's name is Kathy Turner. Okay, so patient consultation with Kathy Turner, whereas over here, the patient's name is Andrew Taylor. Right, so this person is having a conversation with the medical staff over here. Now, the OET people, they are very kind. Okay, so they want to, help you to pass the exam. Okay, that is a good news about the OET. I know it is challenging, but still the OET has made it entirely, possible to clear the exam as easily as possible. So that is why they give you 30 seconds time. Okay, so the OET people, they give you 30 seconds time to read these 12 questions. Okay, so they give you 30 seconds time to read the first 12 questions, and only after this, they will start to play the audio. Similarly, here also you have another 12 questions, right? And for this also, they'll give you 30 seconds time. Okay, 30 seconds of silence. So you get time to read the 12 questions and only then they will start to play the audio over here. Right. So on your examination day, how you utilize these 30 seconds is extremely important. Right. On your examination day, how you utilize these 30 seconds, it plays a massive role in your OET success. Right. Now, this is what we call as effective pre-listening skill. Right. That is pre basically means what? Before. That is before the audio begins. Before the audio begins itself, you have to start bringing in your pre-listening skills. Effective pre, that is before the audio plays and before you start to listen, the skills actually start over here. Right. So one fundamental strategy that I can give you over here is the prediction strategy. Right. The prediction strategy based on the grammar clues. Right. Now, what do I mean by grammar clues over here? So that means you're not listening to the audio yet. You have just 30 seconds and you're just, what are you doing over here? You are basically reading the 12 questions over here. Now, just by reading the question and just by looking into the grammar clues over there, you must be able to say whether the answer is going to be a noun, whether the answer is going to be an adjective, whether the answer is going to be a verb, right? Similarly, you must also be able to say whether the tense is going to be singular tense, whether tense is going to be plural tense, etc. All right. So that small idea you must be able to cultivate. Right. So now what we're going to do is first and foremost, I'm going to play the audio over here. Right. And then once we finish with the audio, I will show you the answer keys and then we'll have a brief discussion regarding this. Right. All right. Now, let's just read the 30 questions. Let's just read the 12 questions over here. So the patient's name is Andrew Taylor. Okay. So now the audio is they're going to be talking about the background of the patient. Right. So the patient has had dash over a long period. Okay. So long period. So here they're talking about a timeline. So for a very long time, the patient have been suffering from one particular sign or symptom. Reports frequent dash. Okay, so here, okay, once again, has had dash over a long period. So here they're talking about a timeline. Okay, timeline that is for a very long time. And here has had something. Okay, so here the patient had been something, and this could be a sign or it could be a symptom. Okay, something that is distressing the patient, right? And this has been going for a very long time. Now you see over here, this is what we call as our prediction strategy, right? Similarly, let's come to the second question over here. The patient reports frequent dash in the last year. So here, what is the tense? Last year is past tense. Okay, something that happened in the past. And here the patient is reporting something which happens frequently. So here again, it is going to be a sign or a distressing symptom. Okay, it's something that is distressing the patient regularly. So you have to understand, okay, the answer to the second question is something that is distressing the patient on a regular basis. Right. Now, let's come to the third question over here. Most recently, the patient dash has become a problem. Right. Now, as you can see over here, what is the tense over here? Here, the tense is present tense, recent. Okay, so here recently means it is present tense over here. See, it has become a problem. So something over here has become a problem. So here also we can say it is going to be a distress. Okay, the patient is having some kind of a distress and very recently it has become a problem. Right. Now, let's come to the fourth question over here. Words used to describe the symptom. So what is the patient doing over here? The patient is using a word to describe the symptom over here. So what will you understand? So you know that the answer over here is going to be an adjective, right? An adjective is a word that describes a noun. Right. So therefore, you need to understand that this patient over here is using an adjective to describe the symptoms. Right. So you must be prepared. So now when your audio is going to play, you must be very attentive. Okay. They are going to be using a adjective over here. That is, what word are they using to describe the symptom they are experiencing? Right. Now let's come to the fifth question. Frequent dash. Now see, the word that is very much near to the blank over here is what we call as a linking word. Right. What's the linking word? Linking word are the word that is directly connected to the blank. Right. So the linking words are extremely important because the linking words actually determines the tense. Okay. Whether it is singular tense, plural tense, whether it is a noun and all that. Okay. And then we have keywords as well. So we have linking words and we have keywords, and you must be able to identify the keywords very much properly. Right. Now, the fifth question, frequent dash patient did not initially link these to the bowel condition. So here also the patient is experiencing, frequent, that is regular. So here also the patient is experiencing a regular distress, right? The patient is experiencing something that is distressing the patient, and this is something that happens regularly. And here you have a clue over here. So it is related, it is having an extension information. The patient did not initially link. Okay, so here the patient did not initially link these two bowel conditions. So the answer over here, it is connected to bowel. Okay, so this distress over here, it is connected to the bowel condition that the patient is experiencing. So that means how should you think? Okay, you should think, okay, I am listening to a distress the patient experiences regularly, and the patient did okay, it is something related to the bowel condition, but the patient initially means what? The starting phase, right? So in the starting phase, the patient did not connect this to the bowel condition. So like this, you have to understand the keywords. So these are what we call as keywords, and you have to register the keywords into your mind. And then when you're listening to the audio, you must have very good prediction strategies. Right. Now let's come to the sixth question. Effects of condition on everyday life. So how this condition over here is impacting the daily life of the patient. Now let's come to the sixth question. Works as an dash over here. So what is the key word over here? The patient work. So you can say the answer is going to be a job noun over here. The answer is going to be a job noun, right? Because job. So the patient is working as an artist, the patient is working as an engineer, the patient is working as a painter, whatever it is, right? So like this, you know that you're listening to a noun, and here it is a job noun over here, right? Now let's come to the seventh question. Situation at work means the patient is. Now see over here, now they're talking about the situation at work. Okay, so the patient situation is, the work situation is unique for this patient and means the patient is. Now, what is the word is signaling to? So here it is signaling to a present. Okay, it is the tense over here. The patient is. All right, so here the answer is going to be present tense over here. So something. Okay, so how is the patient feeling? So how should you think? So it is how the patient is feeling at work because of this condition. Right. So the patient is having a condition over here, and your duty is to find out how the patient is currently feeling, is presently feeling because of this condition. So like this, if you're able to understand what the question is asking you, then when you're listening to the audio, it becomes very much easy for you to pinpoint the right answer. Now let's come to the eighth question. Complains a lack of something. Okay, so complain. So patient over here is complaining. Okay, so here also it is present tense. A lack of something. That means something over here is deprived. Okay, lack. Okay, that is, it is too little. So what exactly is the patient deprived of? So something over here is the patient is having very less. And because of that, what is the patient doing? The patient is complaining. So the patient is complaining that they have been deprived of something. So that is what you have to find out. Right. Now let's come to the ninth question over here. Okay, so here everything is related to the diet of the patient. All right, so let's take a look into the patient's diet. So patient's diet claims to be consuming sufficient. Right. Now, as you can see over here, the patient is claiming. That means the patient is saying that they are consuming. So consuming basically means what? Taking. Okay. So here, what is the patient taking? Okay, and this is related to diet, right? So it could be fiber. Okay, it could be fiber, it could be sugar, right? It could be carbohydrates, right? So something the patient is consuming in very good quantities, and this is related to diet. So like this, you must be able to predict, okay, this is the type of answer that is going to come over here. That is, it is going to be a noun. So here also, the answer is going to be a noun over here. So this is what we call as the grammar clues. Right. Now, let's come to the 10th question. Has experimented with excluding dash from diet. Now see over here, the patient has excluded something. Okay, excluded basically means what? The opposite of include. Right. So that means the patient over here has excluded. That means it is an opposite. That is, they have taken away something from their diet. So how should you think? What did the patient cut away from their diet? This is what you have to find out. What did the patient cut away from the diet? So maybe the patient cut away sugar, maybe the patient cut away carbohydrates. So here also it could be something that is, or it could be it could be, like dairy products, whatever it is. Right. Now, the 11th question, the second last question, the patient has undergone dash no indications of anything problematic. So here the patient has undergone. So that means the patient has underwent a procedure. Okay, so that is a patient has undergone a particular procedure. So here you have to find out what was the procedure. Okay, what was the procedure? Or we can say what was the test? So maybe the patient underwent some kind of a test over here, and your duty is to find out what procedure or test the patient went through. Right. See, you have not even listened to the audio, but even without listening to the audio, you are able to understand what the missing information is. And now all you have to do is listen very attentively and find the right answer. Now let's come to the 12th question. What's the 12th question over here? Now trying. See, so here, what is the tense over here? ing. So here, ing basically means it is present continuous tense. Right, present continuous tense over here. And here the answer is related to medication. So you can say the answer is going to be name of a medicine. Right, name of a medicine or medication, right? And the patient is presently, okay? It is present tense over here, right? Presently using that medication. And your duty is to find out what exactly is that medication the patient is using over here, right? So this is how you have to, when you get this 30 seconds time, so you get 30 seconds time. So within 30 seconds, you must train yourself to get the missing information like this. And that is what we call as prediction anticipation. You must also be able to say the answer is going to be a noun, an adjective, a verb, and with that clarity. Okay, so I will tell you three things over here, and then we will get to the audio. So before you listen to the audio, what do you need? You need to have clarity from the question, right? That is, you really have to understand the question, and very importantly, you should have clarity. Now, when you're listening to the audio, so during the audio, what should you do? You should have focus. Okay, focus on the focus on the anticipated information. Okay, so the OET, they will talk about several things, but you are anticipating. So okay, I'm waiting for a name of a medicine. I'm waiting for a sign. I'm waiting for a symptom. So you should focus only on that, right? And then after the audio is done, what should you do? You should have logic. Okay, so you should use your reasoning skills, right? You should use your reasoning skills and write down the correct answer, right? Now, another very important thing I want to say is that you have to make sure that when you're writing down the information, it forms a grammatically accurate sentence, right? So some students, what they do is they will write the missing information, right? They will write the missing info, but they will add in some extra words. They will add in some extra letters. And because of that, what is going to happen? They will they will destroy the sentence structure. Okay, so even if you write the correct answer, but if you put in some extra words or letters, that is wrong tenses, even if it is the right answer, but because of, the incorrect sentence structure, they will be reducing your scores. Right. Now, I hope you're all ready. So I would strongly suggest that everyone who is attending this session to have a notebook with you. So keep your notebook ready, keep a pen, pencil ready with you, and I'm going to play you the audio, right? All right. So let's see if you are able to find the answer over here.
Good morning, Mr. Taylor. Now, you've been referred to me because it's possible that you're suffering from irritable bowel syndrome or a related condition?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, could you start by giving me some background?
This has been going on for many years. After meals, I've always tended to get heartburn, but I found that pretty easy to deal with by taking antacids from the pharmacy. But a year ago, things suddenly got worse, and there were other problems I started to notice. The symptoms vary a lot, and they can be quite hard to describe exactly, but the main problem is bloating.
I see.
I need to tell you about some other things related to my stomach.
Mm-hmm.
Although this isn't something that happens every day, I've been suffering from constipation in the last month. In the past, I've had the opposite problem and would rush to the toilet several times a day. I just never know how I'm going to feel from one day to the next. It's the way the symptoms are so unpredictable that I hate. It's hard to plan my life.
Were there any other symptoms unrelated to your stomach and bowel?
Well, I have a skin condition that can flare up, and I know this could be related to irritable bowel syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
And the odd thing is that I often have migraines more or less at the same time as the stomach discomfort, and these can go on for days. It's strange, and I didn't at first think it was anything to do with my stomach problems.
Have you noticed anything that can intensify the symptoms in any way?
Well, I have a very demanding job as an accountant. I don't know whether this has a bearing on anything, but there's a chance I might lose my job in a reorganization of my department, so that's obviously something that's making me anxious. I don't know what's going to happen.
What's the worst effect the condition has on you?
The problem isn't just that it's nearly always on my mind unless there's some pretty big distraction, but also that it's so draining. What I mean is, I often feel that I've got no energy at all. I just want to sit around and do nothing when I get home from work, to be honest. I go to bed tired, but I'm frustrated because I have insomnia much more than I ever did before. I wouldn't say I've been suffering from depression, but a condition like this can make you feel rather down.
Right. And I understand that you've investigated the possibility that your diet's responsible for your condition. Can you tell me about this?
I was told by a nutritionist I saw that people with irritable bowel syndrome often don't eat enough fiber. In my case, I don't feel that's an issue. I've followed the nutritionist's advice about taking more fluids during the day, especially water, and accept that in the past, maybe I didn't do that enough. It's hard to say whether that's made a difference, but possibly it's caused a slight improvement. I'd read that dairy products can make things worse, so I tried cutting them out, but I wasn't convinced it made any difference. I've cut back on caffeine, though not much, actually. I also paid for extensive food allergy tests, but they didn't show anything major, so that's not an area my doctor thought was worth investigating further.
What medications have you tried?
Well, I took something called an antispasmodic, which my GP says helps to relax the muscular contractions which move food through the gut. But, to be honest, I don't think it made much difference in my case.
Have you taken anything else?
Well, I've been given antidepressants, and I'm giving them a go. I wasn't sure I completely understood the reasons.
Okay, well, a drug like that targets the signals being sent to and from the nerves in the digestive system. It has a calming effect on the muscles there. Do you find that this drug was effective?
Yes, I'd say it was on the whole.
Okay, so that was the end of the extract one over here, right? So we listened to the 12 questions audio, a patient consultation between a patient called Andrew Taylor and a gastroenterologist, right? So I'm going to show you the answer key over here. So this is the answers to all the first 12 questions. So if you have your notebook with you and if you have written down the answers over here, as you can see, these are the answers to the 12 questions, right? So take a look into the answer key and see how many correct answers you have. Okay, so if you're able to get 9 and above, that is a very good score. Right. So make sure that there is not any spelling mistakes as well. Right. So this is what you need to understand about OET listening part A over here. All right. So now it's time to wind up the session. So before that, I just want to have a small recap of what we discussed. Okay. So in listening part A, we'll have two extracts. Extract 1 will have 12 questions. Extract 2 will also have 12 questions. So that means you have a total of 24 questions. All right. And all the questions that you see over here are all fill in the blank questions. As you can see, there is a missing information. There is a missing information over here, and you have to find out what the missing information is simultaneously as you're listening to the audio, reading the questions, and also writing down the correct answers. Right. So it's a very interesting exam, but at the same time, it can be slightly challenging as well. And you must have all the right strategies with you. So this is a live session, so I'm not going into too much detail. Um, you can always go through my recorded lectures. So I would strongly recommend that everyone over here install our own app. It is called the OET Exam Mastery app, right? And those who would like to join my academy for really premium quality services, you can contact us at this number, that is 919567674043. Right. So this is our contact number. So feel free to contact us and we'll be giving you daily live classes. You'll be getting recorded lectures that is available 24 into 7, right? You'll be getting prompt doubt clearance, and you will also be getting the official authentic study materials, right? And you will also be getting, personalized feedback, right? And we also have flexible class timings as well, right? So we have all these facilities, flexible class timings, right? So this is how we provide our coaching, and we have helped a lot of students achieve their desired OET scores. Right. So thank you all for logging in over here. I wish every one of you over here OET success. So this is me, Dr. Shrikanth, signing